Rewritten story, 5 things to say no to after losing a spouse. What if, in the blink of an eye, the person who knew you better than anyone else was gone? Imagine standing in the quiet of your home, surrounded by echoes of laughter that once filled the air, now replaced by an aching silence that presses against your chest. Losing a spouse isn't just a single moment of heartbreak. It's a tidal wave of grief that crashes over you, followed by a flood of decisions you never imagined facing alone. The pain is raw, unrelenting, and deeply personal, yet suddenly, the world expects you to act, to choose, to move forward. In those fragile days, weeks, and months, it's all too easy to let loneliness, desperation, or the clamor of outside voices steer you toward choices that feel right in the moment, but leave scars of regret later. The truth is, while grief is yours alone to carry, there are pitfalls you can avoid. Mistakes that countless others have stumbled into, only to look back and wish they'd paused, reflected, and said no. In this journey, we'll walk through 5 things you should think twice about after losing a spouse. Decisions that might seem tempting or urgent, but can complicate an already unbearable time. These aren't just warnings, they're lanterns to light your path, offering clarity amid the fog of loss. From hasty financial moves to the quiet trap of isolation, we'll explore why these choices matter and how steering clear of them can safeguard your emotional, financial, and physical well-being. Stay with me until the end, because this isn't just about dodging missteps. It's about honoring your grief while carving a way forward with dignity, strength, and the support you deserve. Let's begin. Number 1, making big financial decisions too soon. Picture this. It's been just a few weeks since your spouse passed. The house feels too big, the silence too loud, and the stack of mail, bills, bank statements, insurance forms, grows taller by the day. You sit at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at numbers that blur through tear-streaked eyes. Suddenly, you're the sole keeper of a financial world you once shared. Maybe you're tempted to sell the house, cash out investments, or move to a new town for a fresh start. It feels like action might anchor you, like decisive steps could wrest control from the chaos of grief. But here's the catch. When your heart is shattered, your mind isn't at its sharpest. Rushing into major financial decisions too soon is one of the most common and costly mistakes widows and widowers make. Take Margaret, a 74-year-old woman with silver hair and a laugh that once lit up rooms. After her husband of 45 years passed, she found herself drowning in advice. Downsize, her friends urged. It'll be easier to manage. Her son nodded, pointing out the lower utility bills. Even her real estate agent chimed in, promising a quick sale. The logic made sense. Less space, less upkeep, a new chapter. So within 3 months, she sold the sprawling ranch house where they'd raised their kids, hosted barbecues, and watched sunsets from the porch swing. She moved into a tidy apartment in a nearby town, boxes still unpacked, expecting relief. But as the fog of grief began to lift, regret sank in. She missed the creak of the old wooden floors, the rose bushes she tended with him, the neighbors who'd become family. The apartment felt sterile, unfamiliar, and far from the comfort she craved. I acted out of panic, she later confessed, her voice trembling. I wish I'd waited until I could think straight. Margaret's story isn't rare. Grief muddies judgment, turning even the savviest minds into vulnerable ones. Financial predators know this. Smooth-talking advisors pitching risky investments, pushy salespeople offering once-in-a-lifetime deals, or even well-meaning relatives nudging you toward choices that suit them more than you. Then there's the impulse to give, handing out money to kids, grandkids, or charities in a burst of generosity that feels noble but leaves you stretched thin years later. The stakes are high. A hasty sale could lock you into a loss. An unwise investment could drain your savings. And impulsive gifts might unravel your security. Experts call it the 1-year rule for a reason. Wait at least 12 months before signing anything irreversible. That's not a magic fix, but it's a buffer, a chance to let the emotional storm settle so you can see the horizon clearly. Consult a financial advisor you trust, someone who knows your long-term needs, not just your immediate pain. In that first year, focus on stabilizing, pay the bills, sort the paperwork, Breathe. The house, the investments, the big moves, they can wait. Your spouse would want you to choose wisely, not desperately. Protect your future by giving yourself time. Number 2, isolating yourself from friends and family. Grief can feel like a solitary confinement, a cell where only you understand the weight of what's been lost. After your spouse dies, the world keeps spinning. Cars honk, birds chirp, people chatter. But inside, time stalls. You might crave solitude, a quiet corner to wrestle with your sorrow alone. Maybe you dodge calls, let texts pile up, skip the family dinner where his empty chair would scream his absence. I just need space, you tell yourself. And at first it's true, but here's where the danger creeps in. What starts as a moment of retreat can harden into a wall, brick by brick, until you're cut off from the very people who could help you carry the load. Consider Walter, 78, a retired carpenter with hands roughened by decades of work and a heart softened by 52 years with his wife Ellen. When she passed, the world felt too bright, too loud. He stopped answering the phone, each ring a reminder of her voice he'd never hear again. He skipped his grandson's birthday, unable to face the chatter and cheer. They wouldn't get it, he muttered, retreating to his recliner with a book he didn't read. Months slipped by and the house grew stiller. Dust settled on the coffee table, dishes stacked in the sink. His energy faded, his appetite waned, and a heaviness he couldn't name took root. It wasn't until a neighbor, a wiry man named Tom with a stubborn streak, knocked one rainy afternoon and wouldn't take no for an answer. "Coffee," Tom insisted, thrusting a mug into Walter's hands. They sat, mostly silent, rain tapping the windows. That small breach in Walter's fortress sparked something. A weekly coffee ritual, then lunches with old buddies. The grief didn't vanish, but it grew lighter, shared. Isolation isn't just lonely, it's perilous. Studies paint a grim picture. Prolonged withdrawal weakens your immune system, spikes blood pressure, even chips away at your lifespan. Yet connection, even in tiny doses, can stitch you back to life. It's not about grand gestures. No one expects you to host a party or spill your soul. Answer one call, take a 10-minute walk with a friend, sit in a cafe and let voices wash over you. Walter learned this the hard way, but you don't have to. Your loved ones might fumble their words, might not grasp your pain, but their presence is a lifeline. And if they don't understand, seek out those who do. A support group, a widow's circle, an online forum where raw honesty finds an echo. You're not betraying your grief by letting others in. You're giving it room to breathe. Number 3, ignoring your own health and well-being. When your spouse slips away, the world doesn't just dim, it tilts. The routines that once tethered you, morning coffee brewed for 2, evening walks hand in hand, unravel, leaving a void that swallows your energy. Grief consumes you, a relentless tide that drowns out hunger, sleep, even the will to move. You might skip breakfast, telling yourself you're not hungry, or let the gym membership lapse because the treadmill feels pointless without their chatter beside you. Doctor's appointments, they slide down the priority list, buried under the weight of loss. Some even feel a pang of guilt. Why care for myself when they're gone? But here's the stark truth. Neglecting your health doesn't honor their memory. It dims the light they'd want you to keep burning. Meet James, 81, a man with a wiry frame and eyes that still crinkle when he smiles, though the smiles come less often since his wife, Ruth, passed. She was the cook, the one who'd fill their mall kitchen with the scent of simmering stew or fresh-baked bread. After she died, James stopped bothering. "What's the point?" he'd mutter, grabbing a bag of chips or a frozen dinner when his stomach growled. Sleep eluded him too, nights spent staring at the ceiling, her side of the bed cold and untouched. Within months, his legs felt heavier, his breath shorter. Fatigue clung to him like damp fog. His daughter Sarah noticed first, his pallor, the way he shuffled instead of strode. "Dad, you've got to eat," she pleaded, setting a bowl of oatmeal in front of him one morning. He grumbled but took a bite, then another. She nudged him towards small steps, a glass of water, a sliced apple, a walk around the block. Slowly the fog lifted, not all at once, but enough to feel human again. Grief doesn't just break your heart, It taxes your body. Research shows it spikes cortisol, strains your heart, weakens your defenses. A widow's risk of illness climbs in those first fragile years, not because of fate, but because self-care slips. Yet small choices, a warm meal, a 50-minute stroll, a checkup, build a bridge back to strength. James didn't leap to marathons or gourmet feasts. He started with oatmeal and a daughter's love. You can too. If cooking feels daunting, lean on a friend's casserole. If exercise seems hollow, step outside and let the sun warm your face. And that doctor's visit you've dodged, schedule it. Your spouse would hate to see you crumble, not out of duty, but because they cherished you. Healing starts with caring for the body that carries their memory. Number 4, rushing into a new relationship. Loneliness after losing a spouse isn't just an ache, it's a chasm. You wake to an empty bed, eat meals in silence, watch shows they loved with no one to laugh alongside. The absence gnaws, and in that hollow, the idea of someone new, someone to hold, to talk to, shimmers like a mirage. There's no shame in craving connection, it's human. But rushing into a relationship before your heart has had time to mend is like building a house on sand. One storm and it collapses. The emotions of grief, longing, fear, desperation can masquerade as readiness, luring you into a romance that promises relief but delivers more pain. Barbara, 72, learned this the hard way. She'd spent nearly 50 years with her husband Tom, a quiet man who'd hum off key while gardening. After he passed, the house felt like a museum of their life. His tools in the shed, his coat by the door. Loneliness hit her like a freight train. 4 months later, a friend introduced her to David, a charming widower with a warm smile. Coffee turned to dinners, dinners to dates. At first, it was a balm, someone to fill the silence, to share the mundane. But soon, David wanted more. Weekend trips, talks of moving in. Barbara felt the ground shift beneath her. She wasn't ready, not for his pace, not for the guilt that crept in when she caught herself comparing him to Tom. "I thought he'd fix the hurt," she admitted later, tears streaking her lined face. "But I needed to fix it myself first." She ended it, bruised but wiser, vowing to wait until her heart caught up with her hopes. Grief scrambles your compass. You might seek a partner to escape the void, to replace what's lost, but that's a shaky foundation. A new love should bloom from wholeness, not neediness. And there's danger too. Scammers prey on the grieving, offering affection with strings attached. Money, isolation, control. Barbara dodged that bullet, but not everyone does. Take your time. Rediscover who you are alone, your quirks, your strength, before inviting someone new in. Talk to friends, journal your feelings, test the waters when you're steady. There's no deadline for love. When it comes, let it be real, not a bandage. Your spouse would want that for you, a connection born of peace, not haste. Number 5, holding on to every possession without letting go. Their sweater still hangs in the closet, soft and worn, smelling faintly of them. Their favorite mug sits by the sink, a chip on the rim from that clumsy morning years ago. Every corner of your home holds a piece of them, a tangible thread to the life you built together. Letting go feels like betrayal, like severing the last tie. So you keep it all, their books, their tools, their half-used cologne, afraid that parting with anything means losing them again. But here's the quiet truth. Clinging to every object can anchor you in grief, turning your home into a museum of sorrow instead of a space to heal. Harold, 76, faced this crossroads. His wife, Clara, had been his partner for 55 years, a woman with a sharp wit and a love for knitting. After she passed, he left her world intact. Her yarn baskets by the couch, her shoes by the back door, her chair angled just so. At first, it comforted him, a way to keep her near. But as months turned to a year, the untouched relics weighed him down. Each glance at her shoes sparked not warmth, but a pang, a reminder of what wouldn't return. One spring day, his daughter suggested sorting through Clara's things. Harold resisted, then relented. They kept her favorite scarf, a photo album, a locket. The rest, donated, repurposed, freed him. It wasn't erasing her, he said, voice steady. It was making room to live with her memory, not just her stuff. You don't have to purge everything. Choose treasures, a watch, a letter, a trinket, and let them shine. Start small, a drawer, a shelf. Ignore the chorus of "you should clear it out" until you're ready. Or transform, stitch their shirt into a pillow, share their books with family. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's honoring them by giving yourself space to breathe. Their love lives in you, not in things. Release what you can when you can, and carry them forward in a way that lifts, not burdens. Final thoughts. Losing a spouse rips the fabric of your life, leaving threads dangling in a wind you can't control. It's a wound that changes how you walk through the world, tentative, tender, transformed. Yet in that rawness, every choice you make shapes the path ahead. Saying no to these 5 traps, rushing finances, isolating yourself, neglecting health, leaping into romance, hoarding possessions, isn't about denying your grief. It's about cradling it with care, steering clear of regrets that could deepen the hurt. There's no clock on healing, no map for sorrow, but avoiding these stumbles lets you move forward with grace. Your spouse's absence echoes, but their love endures. In the life you still live, the strength you still summon. What resonated most? Maybe it's the patience of waiting, the courage of connecting, the gift of self-care. Share it below. What struck you? What you'll carry forward? Your voice matters, a whisper of hope in this shared journey. If this spoke to you, like, subscribe, share. Together, we'll keep lighting the way. Thank you for being here.